mornings with 5 vastly different days. From WBBZ Chicago, it's This American Life. I'm Ira Glass.
Single out the mouth that speaks, nunchucks for the dumb fucks, and I whisper when I thump the beat. Some luck feeling dumbstruck, and I noticed I was someone neat. After years of trying, I was rapping all about the memes and my own discreet anguish. Blinking the time flitters by like I was Shinobu Kocho. I'm need the antidote though, so I can go on tour again with the Roman group of boars again. The in and out was blasted the last time I was in Texas. That was triple years ago. The craving is just so perplexing. I'm simply hangry for an adventure. A spot date just won't do. I still got the frisbee. We can pass around the whole crew in the giant Buc-ee's parking lot. None to how those times were lost, but never could I quit. I just took my time to gain heavy with the flips. Fell in love, got a buzz, and rebutted those 6 to a shrug. Now I plunge into one owner's big DVD copy. See thoughts be still up on the media, but feel as much the story is true or false will always live. Feeding much to breathing tough is reason why I quit. It'd be better for my kids, so I'm putting in the time so I can live forever with all the people that yo honestly I thought didn't exist. But clearly I am past that. The PS4 ambience does not score my eclipse anymore, so I'm not so bored of how it begins. These days are greeted by seeing my future. Sneeze and I beam the tide. Sneakers I am built for. Freezing tides seem to lie. Temperatures picture all the red in my head, left with a fixture, and that's the gist, sir.
Panic been working. What? No escape from reality.
If you identify as a man, please step to this video and tell me a joke that is not at the expense of other people's feelings.
All right.
Hell yeah.
So, shit. Well, welcome to the first episode of Labgrown. I'm here with Pink Navel. Well, Pink Navel, where are you from?
What's up? I'm Pink Navel. .dev. I'm from a small town in the South Shore of Massachusetts called Marshfield. It is in Plymouth County.
Okay.
Yep.
So, how'd you like it?
You know, I feel like, I don't know. I don't have any crazy feelings about where I'm from very much, negative or positive. I feel very neutral about where I'm from. However, I do. So there's like a village within Marshfield, Massachusetts called Brant Rock, and it's like a beach town. And I lived there for like a long time, and my grandma lived there for a very long time, and it has a very special energy. I think I do remember and think of this place more fondly than like the town I'm from as a whole. But Brant Rock itself, I think, is a very cool and interesting and special place. So I guess I do like it there. But generally, I'm not very keen on like that specific of my origin, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that definitely makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
How would you describe your music as Pink Navel?
Well, I guess my music is very like, I don't know. I feel like some words I've used in the past when I've been asked this question are like coy. I think my music is very coy. I think it's very playful. I think it's very whimsical in a way. I think I have this like, sort of like wise jester energy. I don't want to just call myself wise and have it be like canon, but I don't know. Maybe I am. Like I just think I'm kind of goofy, but in like a studied way, you know?
Absolutely. So how long have you been making music as Pink Navel?
We're coming on. Oh, I guess as Pink Navel, we're coming on 7 years.
7 years?
Yeah.
And how long have you been making music in general?
9 years. I think maybe, yeah.
9 years?
8 or 9.
And where? Not where. I'm reading the next question. Are you trained? Like, what's your musical training look like? Are you all self-taught? What's up with that?
I'm like an interesting mixture, I guess. Sorry, my chair's making funny noises. I was in like the concert band in middle school. I played the snare drum. I grew up being into percussion. My dad was a drummer in like bands and stuff and in school. So it was kind of like expected of me to like follow that tradition in a way. My grandfather was also a drummer. And I took private lessons. I learned how to play kit, read music and stuff like that. But once I got into high school, I stopped any academic music training at all. I didn't want to do the marching band. I thought that marching band was lame at the time. But what's crazy is it's kind of like, as a musician, it's kind of my biggest regret was not continuing to study drums academically. I wish I did marching band. Me as a grown person, I think that marching band is very cool. I think drumline is very cool. And I love watching drumline videos, and people that have chops like that, I think is so sick. So I think about it a lot, that I wish that I did that training, but I didn't. And then basically everything after that has been self-taught. Everything I know is tricks and just weird little things. The way I make beats is very odd. The way I know theory, like what I know from theory is very odd. You know, it's all just like little hacks and stuff like that. So yeah, self-taught for the most part, but I did experience some training in my early years.
Okay. And I already know the answer, but the obvious answer. But where did Pink Navel come from? Why Pink Navel?
Yeah. Pink Navel is a reference to Steven Universe, the Cartoon Network show. Steven's a little dude. He's got a pink gem in his belly button and gives him powers. And that show, when I was in college, it really, watching it for the first time kind of changed my life. I know people like, I don't think it's cringy to say that a piece of media, even like a quote unquote children's cartoon, like changed your life. 'Cause to me, it really did. And like, yeah, it just, it changed my life for the better. It helped me understand my identity. So I wanted to honor that with my work. So I chose to just name myself after that in a creative way. And the name has just stuck over a long period of time now.
Absolutely, yeah. Everybody knows you as Pink Navel. It's the whole DIY scene for the most part, honestly.
Yeah. Everyone knows me as Pink Navel. Some people know me as .dev. .dev is like my little nickname, I guess. Yeah. But Pink Navel. Pink Navel's the name. Yeah.
Yeah. We're going to talk about other projects later. I know you're doing some other stuff too.
Cool.
Let's talk about 3 artists or albums that influence Pink Navel sonically.
Oh, you know what? I loved the way that you split this up, like sonic and lyric influence. I just wanted to say that. I think it's really, that's a cool distinction, you know? Because it's different. It's different for me. They're so different, like those influences, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So who's the sonic influence?
Yeah, so my sonic influences, really early on, it was this producer Devin Hu, like an old school beat maker, mind design, stuff like that, kind of like jazzy electronic kind of stuff. And then later on, of course, I'm very influenced by like Doom and Madlib and Dilla and that sort of era of beat making and stuff. And then, but also like, you know, the sound collage style sampling of like dialogue and stuff like that, that was kind of popularized by the art rap scene and Mike Eagle and Milo and Kenny Siegel and stuff like that. And, but also emo music too, you know, like a lot of emo bands in like the mid like 2010s would, you know, have these, they'd like play a riff and then do a sample from like Freaks and Geeks and stuff. And that was a pretty big influence on me too. Just hearing like the marriage of like an emotional piece of TV media or movie with like a piece of music, and just being like kind of recontextualizing that speech was very influential to me sonically. I think I do it a lot in my music. So yeah, that was definitely something that influenced like the way I kind of go about my production, structuring my songs. Definitely.
All right. Yeah, definitely. So you're talking about Dikembe, right?
Yeah, but I mean,
You're talking about the Freaks and Geeks.
I mean,
but you're talking about Freaks and Geeks. There's
well, yeah, like Dikembe, but also like so many bands did Freaks and Geeks. Like I feel like Freaks and Geeks was like, I feel like Free Throw had a Freaks and Geeks flip on one of their tracks, and like, but also just shows like that too. Like there's a really awesome. Oh no, Free Throw had the Boy Meets World joint. I think that's what it was. They sampled Boy Meets World on one of their tracks, which is pretty cool. But also like Brave Little Abacus did some really cool stuff with sampling dialogue from shows on their record, and I don't know, just stuff like that.
all right. And who are your lyrical influences?
Weatherbox, the band Weatherbox.
All right.
Period. That's like
Period.
my main lyrical influence. That Brian's writing in that band is amazing, really amazing, and I study it. Also, Paul Simon, lyrically, I really study Paul Simon's lyrics. I find him to be a very interesting writer in general, and I love his music. So yeah, Weatherbox, Paul Simon. I don't know. Yeah, lyrically, I'm kind of all over the place in terms of influence. Lately, I've been returning to some Open Mike Eagle albums, some older ones. Kind of studying those a little bit and enjoying them too. And kind of just, yeah, running the gambit. But yeah, I would say mainly Weatherbox. I love that band so much. They're my favorite musical group, period. Seriously.
All right. I definitely. I'm not the biggest Weatherbox fan, but I know a decent part of their catalog, and I can say that I can see that influence definitely.
I am obsessed with Weatherbox.
I want to say
obsessed. Like, I just find like their structure and their content and their premise to be so beyond anything else that people are doing in that genre. And I think it's just astounding. I think it's just like amazing to hear stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Hell yeah.
Who influences you just as an artist? Just 3 people that maybe you just want to give a shout out, or people that just have been inspiring you since you started.
I guess since I started, I've always been very influenced by like, my fam in the Rubaiyat. So shout out the Rubaiyat. We love to, as like a group, I think we do a good job of like inspiring each other to do cool and interesting things. And I that's one of the reasons I love being in the group, because we're all just creative people that are like kind of firing each other up all the time, which is sick. And I don't know. Again, I'll just say Brian Warren from Weatherbox. The way that he moves as an artist has always been very cool to me. The way that, like, there's like a 10-year-old video, 11-year-old video of him playing Love Me a Good Microcosm, but that song didn't come out until like, I think 4 or 5 years after that video. I love stuff like that. That songs are just, you carry them for so long before sharing them with the world in that way. I think it's really cool. I'm really into this dude, Zay Frank. He kind of inspires me as an artist. Chris Gethard inspires me as an artist. Yeah, those people. Doom, of course, MF Doom. But I don't know. I think I look for inspiration everywhere, like not just rappers, because I like to see. It's interesting to see how people just move in the world as artists, no matter what they're doing. And I think it's fun to try to translate something you see from a different world into your own world, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot to be learned from people outside of, as a rapper, there's a lot to be learned from, how emo bands are moving, and that's really cool that you're observing and, conglomerating those ideas.
Yeah. Yeah, hell yeah.
Let's talk about your studio. We talked a little bit about how you're hardware only right now, but what does your studio look like? What do you got in there? What equipment do you use? What are your favorite equipment to use when you make beats? Let's talk about your studio.
Okay. So my studio is kind of a mess. I have a bunch of stuff in here. I'm living with my parents again right now. So I'm actually in my old bedroom, but it's just I don't sleep in here. I'm just using this room as a studio. So it can be kind of trippy being back in the room that I wrote like my first albums in, working in here again. But how does it look? It's very messy. Right now it's full of boxes of cassette tapes and mailers and all kinds of fucking shit, dude. A bunch of TVs. I have like a CRT TV that I use to play GameCube games. And then the equipment. I just use I have some really old KRK speakers that I've been using for like the entirety of my career. I got a couple 404s, Dig Dug DIY, Lo-Fi Dream sampler. Then I have a 4-track looper, the Electro Harmonix 45,000. And then I have a little Walkman CD player, and I have a bunch of CDs. I've been sampling from CDs lately because I used to sample from the internet a lot, but it kind of got really stale. And I didn't want to go back to sampling vinyl because I can't buy vinyl anymore. It's so heavy and cumbersome. So I figured I'll get into CDs, and I've been getting into CDs. Enjoying that. A bunch of video games. I do all of my media consumption in my studio as well. So like video games in here. I got some consoles, my PC that I play games on. It's just like chock full of my 3D printer. Pretty much everything I do creative is in this room. So like a lot of other arts and crafts kind of stuff is kind of populates the room as well. But yeah, I kind of like to keep it a little messy just because it's just how my brain feels. But it's always good to like reset and clean up after a while. But for the most part, pretty cluttered room of just creativity. Especially lately, I've been very focused on my work, so I haven't really had time to clean up the room, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, you're gonna make it messy again while you're working. So like,
exactly.
Might as well just leave the mess. It's your
exactly. Mess. And I don't sleep in here, so I don't feel weird about it. Like my room is very clean, like the place that I sleep. So I feel
as long as you're
right.
Yeah, as long as your room is the place you sleep is not chaotic, you're fine.
And that's the beauty of it, like I think if any artists are listening, like if you're able to separate the place that you sleep from the place that you work, I think you should do it. That's like a huge, it will change your productivity by multitudes.
Yeah, absolutely. I had my desk. I had my desk in my living room for a little bit. I don't know why I put it back in my room. Like sleeping 3 feet away from where my Ableton is. I'm like, can't do it.
Yeah, for me, it's the flip of that where it's like, oh wow, I have to work right next to where I sleep. Like I just want to keep sleeping. Like I don't want to wake up and just be like staying in that room. I don't know. That's just how I feel about it.
No, absolutely. It makes a lot more sense to have it separate.
Yeah. I just think if one is able to do that, I think it's beneficial.
Absolutely. And what does your creative process look like? What do you usually start with when you're making a Pink Navel song?
For me, it's like it's kind of always different. I like per song it's different. I try to like not fall into a routine because I feel like then my work gets kind of stale, you know. So like sometimes
Yeah, if you're doing
sometimes I'll start with a beat. I'll make a beat and then I'll keep it around for a while, and then one day I'll like pull it back up and be like, oh, I'm gonna rap on this. Sometimes I'll have a verse written from a different beat and then like change what beat I want it on. It's kind of always different, like especially like because I've been writing a lot of stuff on the guitar too, so like that's a whole other different process for me, you know. I kind of try to keep it as open as possible. Sometimes I'll have concepts, like just a couple lines that I think would be interesting in a rap song to hear, and I'll work on something to try to like kind of shoehorn that into it in a way. Yeah, it's always different. It's always different for me.
All right. I mean, that sounds pretty good, and I feel like you create a very high quality product with a
Thank you.
without like you can definitely tell that you approach your music from a different angle for each song. They all have a very different feel to them, while still being like, you know, your music.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Really, yeah. Like, I try to put like I feel like my biggest strong suit is like my character, my personality. So like I do try to put that into like my work as much as I can, but at the same time, like I don't know. This is supposed to be fun for me, you know? So I don't want to turn it into this like factory type formula that I must follow, you know? And especially lately, because I make a lot of my beats on stream now. I do a lot of production while I'm streaming. So I end up getting a lot of influence from the people that come and support the stream and talk to me and call me on the phone while I'm making beats. And stuff like that can really change the creative process a lot, because while I'm streaming, I feel this urgency to churn out a cool sounding beat very quickly so that my stream does not become boring, you know? So I'm just like searching like really quickly, trying to figure out like where's the pocket, like where does this sound cool, so I can like have some fun and like get this going as fast as possible. So it's kind of a fun way to look at it too. Yeah.
I have not been able to make it to one of your beat streams yet, but I will in the future. I'm very excited to see how that goes.
Well, hey, if you're free today
Oh yeah, you're streaming today?
Yeah, probably like at 4:30 or 5 my time, yeah.
And we'll just have a little second to promo your Twitch in the middle of this part, but so you stream almost every weekday, right?
Yeah, I stream like 4 days a week. Usually Wednesday to Saturday. Sometime around 4 or 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We go for like 3 or 4 hours. I try to do a different thing every day. It's only one video game stream per week and one beat making stream per week. And then sometimes we'll do like YouTube video reaction stuff. And there's a lot of like lore and inside joke stuff building around my stream. So usually the last day of the week we'll do something that's like community based. Like this weekend we're going to do something with Slurpee. I don't know if you know Slurpee.
I do, in fact.
So me and Slurpee are going to hop on stream together and like do something, the Slurpee and Dev show. I don't really know, but that kind of stemmed from just how often Slurpee calls and we'll stay on the phone for the entire stream. So we just decided like, how about you just actually come on stream and we'll show your face and stuff and we'll be together and do something funny. So that's going to be this Saturday, the Slurpee and Dev show. And then I just try to keep it fresh and take a lot of input from people who are watching to see what they want to see happen. And from that, I do take a lot of influence from like Chris Gethard and Zay Frank for the way that my streams are structured and stuff. So I just try to have fun with it with the community and build it up. So yeah.
Hell yeah. So back to music. We already talked a little bit about sampling. I feel like you've covered most of, do you sample? Yeah, you do. And when and how do you do it? recently been doing CDs, you said?
CDs are the future. CDs are the future of sampling. I'm telling you. Sampling CDs is so fun. I love to do it. They're so cheap. You know, we're living in a time where vinyl has become sort of recommodified, if that makes sense. I think that sampling vinyl was viable for a period of time, but now that it's really cool again, it's hard to find affordable vinyl. It's hard to find vinyl for $1 these days. But CDs, nobody really fucking cares about CDs no more. Everyone's like, ugh, a file on a disc? I don't want that. So I can go to the flea market and get like 20 CDs for like $5 sometimes. And so that's what I've been doing. Just buying a whole bunch of CDs. And you know, I like it a lot because you find interesting stuff that maybe they wouldn't have taken the time to press to vinyl. Sometimes I'll go to the flea market and find a CD that's homemade of like someone's random homemade recording band. And I know that no one's ever going to, you know, like track me down for sampling that, you know? It's just a different kind of pool of media, you know, and I've really been enjoying it. And it's a new thing for me. The CDs, but I like it. I'm having a good time with it. It's fun.
That's good. Yeah, and CDs, like, if you think about CDs came out at a time that was very different when vinyl was a thing.
Right.
Because it was like the same thing as the VHS tape of like anybody can make one now. Like you can just make a CD.
That's what I'm saying. You can just like burn a CD. And I swear, sometimes we just be finding like people's homemade band CDs. And I'd be sampling that. And I'd be making money off of that.
Hell yeah.
You know?
And like, if those people ever found out you sampled them, they're just going to be stoked. They're not going to be like, oh,
I think so too. I think so
they're just gonna
too.
be like, fuck yeah.
I think so too. I think it's cool.
Yeah, it's absolutely cool because you're the first person that I've seen like publicly talk about sampling CDs. Really, like, I don't think anyone's really doing it.
Yeah, I know people that do it. And I've seen, you know, a lot of stuff from people that do it. And I'm not gonna say I'm like the first person to ever sample a CD, but I think I'm like just in my own creative process. It's very new to me, and I'm just like really enjoying it. And I would love to see more people do it because it's really fun.
Yeah, well, especially with, you know, like Epic Club and things like that. You've got, you know, people that are witnessing you sample with a CD. I'm gonna at least hear a beat at some point. I'm gonna see a stream soon. I'm gonna know how you do it, and like,
yeah, it's really simple.
There you go. You just taught people how to do it. Like,
yeah,
you're giving everyone this hot trick. Maybe you're not the first person to sample with CDs, but you might popularize it at least in like the Rubiot fan club, you know?
Heck yeah.
What we were called.
Heck yeah. The Poet Army.
Yeah.
Yeah, shout out the Poet Army, of course. Shout out the Poet Army.
So we talked a little bit about writing lyrics. Let's talk about specifically the writing the lyrics for Epic. How did that go about? I know there was something involving just writing them all at your living room table, right?
Yeah, my coffee table. So that was like the first time I was doing the Epic Club streams. I was making beats, sampling off YouTube for the most part. And just like having a lot of fun. And I realized after like 3 months of just making beats like 3 times a week on stream, I had so many beats. And I thought, okay, well, I guess it's time to make an album. Like it was the most like naturally I'd ever come across figuring out that it was time to make a record. Know what I mean? I was like, oh, damn, like I have all this content now. I should make an album. So I went through and I picked like, you know, the 11 best ones, and I just put them all in the same bank on my 404. And then I would just every day after work, I would sit at my coffee table with my 404, a little speaker in my notebook, and I would just write a verse, and I wouldn't think about it. The whole idea of Epic was that it wasn't meticulously planned. all of my albums before Epic I've spent like a year on and meticulously detailed every single piece of it ad nauseum. And I wanted Epic to be like the antithesis of that, where all the beats were made on the fly, on stream. All the verses were written in like one go. I didn't rewrite. There was no rewrites. There was no polishing. I just did it how I did it, you know? And it was a fun process. I really did enjoy making an album that way. And it definitely changed how I look at the value of my work, you know, because I did not spend a long time on Epic. I think I spent more time planning the release of Epic than I did actually making the album itself. And that was the first time I'd ever done something like that. And it was my most successful album ever, you know? So it just kind of flipped the script on my outlook of like what makes a piece of work valuable.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah.
Especially in a comparison of, you know, how much time you've invested in, you know, either project and seeing, you know, Epic take off more than, what was your last album before that? Yeah, what did you put out before Epic?
So
I can't remember the name.
We did the EP Pink Pound, me and One Pound.
Pound, yeah.
But then before that was Draft Track. That was my last like big record, was Draft Track.
Okay.
And
yeah, I was trying to remember the name of it. I was like, it's the one with the Milo feature on it.
yeah, Draft Track, I fucking the intense level of focus that I had while creating this album was insane. I literally spent like over a year on this piece of work, and it was exhausting. It was fun. I loved making this album. I personally, I think Draft Track is my best album. I think it's so tight. It's so tight knit. It's so varied and creative. But yeah, just a different kind of album than Epic altogether, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely can see how Draft Track would be your best. I'm personally a big fan of, honestly, your whole catalog.
Thank you.
But Draft Track's definitely like a lot more out there in comparison to Epic.
Yeah, and that was kind of the idea, was that I wanted Epic to be more of like a rap album. I'm just rapping. Draft Track is like a weird piece of work. And then I agree with you. Epic is more kind of straightforward rap album style stuff.
And so when you write a song, what's the goal? It's just to have fun?
Yeah, the goal is to have fun. I'm like a crazy person. Sometimes the goal is just to make like one joke. You know, sometimes the goal is to express an emotion. Sometimes the goal is to tell a story. But sometimes the goal is just to do something that's hilarious. Like, I did a song, a throwaway, like Lucy track for my friend's label's compilation, and it's just called Jack Black Bowser, and it's just a whole rap song about how Jack Black is playing Bowser in the new Mario movie. And it just sounds like this crazy. It just sounds like this crazy, like aggressive rap song, and it's just about Jack Black and how he's gonna be Bowser. Yeah. So I mean, there's that, yeah. but then I have songs about love and loss and stuff like that too. But I think they're all very valuable. I think just being funny is very valuable, for myself and for my own personal healing, which is what I do find in my work. But also just for the listener, I think it's fun to see a song that is like something that you enjoy listening to because you relate to it emotionally. But I think it's also fun to hear a song and be like, wow, this rapper said this really niche, funny thing that I've never heard in a rap song before. That's awesome. Which is also something that I love to do too.
That's definitely just like talking about your interests and like just the way that you write. That's what got me hooked. I was like, this person's just like rapping about their life. Like they're not living like, the most, you're not talking about shooting people. Or you're talking about, TikTok and nunchucks for dumb fucks. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of my whole shit. Is just I live an extremely boring life. My life is very boring. So like I don't want to pretend like it's not, I mean, it's not boring, but it's not. I like my life being boring. I strive to live a very quiet and sort of slow lifestyle,
Absolutely. And so when is a song ready to go out for you?
I have a hard time with that. I have a hard time with that concept because sometimes I spend too long on a song and I file it down and then I don't like it anymore. So I try to be like, these days I try to be very quick about it and not return to things after the first day of working on it. So like as soon as I have a verse recorded and I can listen to it all the way through, it's done. Like I don't want to return to it and like try to do something more with it like the next day. Cause to me, I feel like that's returning to a moment that's already passed. So I just let it be the way that it is. And if I like it, I'll put it out. And if I don't, I'll scrap it.
All right. That's a pretty good process. Pretty cut and dry too. Like,
yeah,
just let it sit.
Yeah. Over the years, I've just been able to trust myself more. And I don't feel pressure to put everything out anymore because I know I can make something cool any day of the week, In the past, I felt like everything that I think is cool that I make, I need to put out because I may not make something like that again. But I don't really feel that way anymore. Nowadays, I feel like I'm just more confident in my ability, I guess,
Yeah, absolutely. And that comes with time, that comes with experience, and like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you should be confident in your ability. I will say that as, a fan, you should be confident in your ability.
Thank you.
You got it. You're good.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And so, what music do you have out now, and where can it be found? Where do you want people to listen to your music specifically?
Well, I feel like the best place is Bandcamp. If you're gonna stream it, just stream it anywhere. I mean, I'm not the streaming police. but I do have a Bandcamp.
Yeah, I was trying not to have you be the streaming police, but I was trying to get you to say, listen to Bandcamp because it's you can also buy it on Bandcamp.
You can buy it, you can own it. Honestly, the best way to listen to my music is on cassette tape.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the best way is on cassette tape or maybe even CD one day.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got let's look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I have 15. No, I have 13 albums on Bandcamp right now. So that should be enough work to
yeah, that's enough.
I don't know. Hold you over.
Yeah. So since you have 13, we're not going to go through every release. I don't know. What is one of your favorite older records of yours? What is your favorite oldest record of yours?
Okay, yeah. No, I read this question and I had the same thought, so I thought we could just go over maybe 4 of them that kind of span the career. So when I was in college, I did this mixtape called Best Morning. And Best Morning was it was in this era of my career where I was changing my name from Running Laps to Pink Navel. So part of this was, it put out technically under the name Running Laps, but also it was Pink Navel or whatever. And this is my favorite old release because of just how unhinged and crazy it is. I think one of the first tracks is a Nicki Minaj remix there is a song where I flipped a loop from The Princess and the Frog and I put a Busta Rhymes a cappella over it, and then I freestyle at the end. There's like parts of this that it's just a very weird mixtape that it was like one of the first things that I made in Ableton that I was very proud of. And it's just very odd. It's just extremely weird. And from a whole different era of my career where my tone and my performance was very, very different than what it is now. So I love listening back on it because it just makes me feel like I was just such a different person back then, and it's just crazy to hear that kind of thing kind of come from me or whatever. But it's cool. I like it though. Yeah. And then maybe we'll go to, so that was in that record, Best Morning, came out in 2016. In 2017, I put up my first like concept album, my first like album called Raw Navel. And that was like, it was like a real record that I kind of put together that's a lot more personal, it was sort of the first real Pink Navel album, in my opinion. And it got a lot of support. People love it. People still love it. I just reissued the album on cassette tape, and it almost sold out. So people obviously are, fucking with it. But it's sort of about, me discovering my non-binary identity, rapping about that. It's sort of like the thesis statement, sort of like the proof of concept for my whole style, And I think everything I've done after Raw Navel has been like a development of the style that I kind of put to paper with this record. And it sort of started this era of framed stuff on the wall as the cover. It's like part of like a trilogy, I guess.
Yeah.
So there's that record, there's Born on the Stairs, and there's Andre's Gift and Omer Tower. All three of those albums, the covers are a picture of a framed thing on a wall. Just interesting tidbit. Navel lore.
Little navel lore.
Little navel lore. Andre's Gift and Omer Tower came out 2018. That record's about the internet, about memes, about internet culture. No, it came out in 2019. Excuse me. Yeah, it's about memes. It's about the internet. It's about how I think that memes are art, and I just be rapping about that and rapping about internet community as a whole. And yeah, I love this record. I think this is like peak like weird Navel era kind of shit. I feel like this is like the weirdest I got. Definitely like a lot of odd samples. I got my friends to like read this big document, and I like used all their takes to record something, Then I'll do one more. Then Giraffe Track came out in 2020, the next year. This was a period of my life where I was doing one record per year. So I would just spend a whole year on one album. And that's just how I did it, I guess. And this one is about like my growing up, like what brought me to become a rapper. Every song is like a different time in my life. As a kid, growing up, as like a young teenager, just trying to paint the picture of like what the context of me being an artist even is, My dad dying very young, just being a kid who was bullied all the time as a kid, and like, the classic like using humor to like get out of being bullied, stuff like that. Disney. I do a cover of a Hercules song on this album. Just a lot of weird shit, and then it kind of like carries the listener to like the present of like, I went through all this stuff and I worked really hard to like be good at what I do, and now I have a song with Rap Ferreira, and that's kind of like the idea of like the last song being my song with Ro. And just sort of like carrying this tradition of like, you know, there's like a song that he has or a record that he has where like one of the last songs is a song where Mike Eagle is featured on it. And I felt like, oh, what if I flipped that, you know, and did it again, like, you know, like top, like, you know, like history is a poem, like in Star Wars, you know, like, I don't know. Yeah, just some weirdo stuff that I think about in terms of like structure. Yeah. So that's a little tidbit on a few of my records.
Little tip. All right. And that's really cool that I had that having so he was on that song. I can't remember if he was on that song as Rap Ferreira or he was on that song as Milo. Was it Rap Ferreira he was on that song as?
Yep.
Okay. Couldn't remember. It was like that was like the year he did the name switch, right?
I think so. I don't really remember now.
Yeah.
It could have been the year before, but I really don't remember now.
Yeah, there's just like my mind blends what he was featured as on that. But it's really cool that was kind of carrying on from that open mic song that the song with open mic.
Yeah. That was my idea.
Especially just like what I know from like interviews and things like that about like I don't know the torch being passed, you know.
Exactly. See, you get what I'm you get what I'm getting at. Like I felt like that was it's trying to be very like traditional and like respectful about that type of thing because I really feel like it's like that, and I don't really know if it is, but I feel that type of way about just how time progresses and like the musicians that come from time and the way that like influence is sort of like a ladder, you know, and you can like look up the ladder and you can see every spoke and it's still there, you know, especially because we're all still active artists and it's just some cool shit.
Hell yeah. And so what do you have stuff stowed up right now? Do you have like full songs stowed up or just like beats?
I have all kinds of shit. Yeah, I've got a whole like bedroom pop emo album that we're putting out in the spring with my band, First Passionate Frisbee Club. But I'm working on a side project, rap project, mixtape. Yet to be, well, it does have a name. I've said it on stream too. I'm gonna put it out as .dev.
Okay.
Yeah, it's gonna be called "There Is a Wind but No Chime." That's the name of the record. It's just a bunch of sad songs, and I don't want to put it out as Pink Navel because they're all really sad, and Pink Navel is not about being sad. So I'm going to do it as a different name.
Well, and that's what's nice. So, I don't know, just a little bit of lore for me. Where did .dev come from? I know that, like, obviously it comes from your name, but how did you get to .dev?
So,
you know what I mean?
So, a big theme in Raw Navel was this idea of being sort of fed up with the corporal form, not really wanting to be a physical person. Because I was just so fed up with the emotions and the feelings that come with being a physical person. So I rap a lot about like, what if I was a computer file? Like I wanted to be a file, like a piece of code. And so that sort of progressed into like naming all the songs. They're like file types. So every song ends with .dev. Like a .jpeg or like a .png. And that was just how I named all my songs for a long time. Up until Andre's Gift, I was doing the .dev file type titling. And that's what it was at first. It was just a way for me to like express that idea in my song names. But then when I joined Rubaiyat, they started to use .dev as like a nickname for me. And I never thought of it like a name. I thought of it like a naming convention for song titles. But then everybody in the crew just started calling me .dev. So for a while it was just like what I was called privately in the crew, you know?
Yeah.
And then I just used that. I began to like refer to myself as .dev in rap songs, and it was just a new way to refer to myself after a while, spelling out the word .dot. Yeah, and it just became some shit that I would use, you know?
Hell yeah.
And now
That's a fair.
Yeah.
And it's definitely cool to have different names for yourself outside of just like, you know, what is my name? What's my name as an artist, you know, and having to be able to vary that and to do, you know, a .dev record separately from Pink Navel, you know.
Yeah.
Pink Navel fans will know who .dev is. It's not going to be, you know, a shocker.
Yeah, it won't be like a secret.
And so, what does life look like outside of music for you? Talked a little bit about it, but you want to go as in depth as you'd like.
You know, outside, like the period of my life that I'm in right now, I'm very grateful, very lucky to say that I'm, you know, in a position where I don't have to pay rent. I am making a considerable amount of money from cassette tape sales. So I'm doing okay, you know. Not enough where I could go get my own apartment, but I have some money and I'm able to do what I want. And I've just been using that time to make as much music as possible. So all of my waking hours are spent focusing on my work. But outside of that, it's a lot of just helping my parents do stuff that they can't do anymore. So I'm like going in our basement and doing a lot of laundry and cleaning our house and just really boring stuff. But other than that, I'm just making music. That's like my whole life now. I make music and I do chores, but like in a fun way.
Hey, that honestly sounds like the life.
It's pretty sick. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of like a blessing in disguise that I ended up back here. It wasn't my plan initially to come back home like this, but it just turns out that I'm actually quite needed here right now, so it works out. And yeah, it's just cool. And I'm just doing a lot of stuff like that, dishes and chores and cooking and fun stuff like that with my mom and helping her out as much as I can. And when I'm not doing that, I'm up here streaming, making beats, fucking around.
Hell
yeah.
So the last question is 3 pieces of media you'd recommend to your fans / listeners. Your fans. I don't think you have just listeners.
Let me think. Let me just... Okay, so my first one is Papa Hobo by Paul Simon. The song Papa Hobo by Paul Simon. And the second one would be the Brave Little Abacus last show video. It's like their like last performance set. It's like an hour-long video or something like that. Amazing video. The singer's dad comes up and they do a Tom Petty cover. It's like the coolest last show of all time. Easily. So yeah, those 2 things. And then the Weatherbox audio tree session. Oh, can I do a 4th?
Yes, you can.
The Open Mike Eagle Knock Steady live session where he plays the processional. That was the first video I ever saw of somebody using a piece of gear while rapping. And I was like, no fucking way you can do that. it blew my mind.
Ooh, I have not seen that. I'll definitely have to check that one out.
Yeah.
Especially.
Do you know about Knock Steady Live?
I feel like I've heard it or like I've seen seen it somewhere. I don't think I've watched anything.
Hell yeah, yeah. Like I don't know if you know like the Kinda Neat sessions with Intuition. Knock Steady Live was like the precursor to Kinda Neat. And it was like a whole different kind of show, but a few of the same people were behind it as Kinda Neat.
All right. Mm-hmm. Wow. We got through all the questions. Do you have any closing thoughts? Anything? Yeah. Just any closing thoughts on anything we might have talked about?
Just that this is epic, and I appreciate you asking me to come on your podcast. I'm happy I was able to do it. This is very fun, and you're dope.
Yeah. Thank you for coming. Thank you for that. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Hell yeah.
Thanks for being my first guest for the official actual podcast.
Hell yeah. I'm glad.
Yeah. Damn. So I guess we can. So I probably should do an outro for this podcast, huh? I'll record that in post. So I'll
Sweet.
probably just cut it here.
Sweet.
We can call that good. Yeah. So you can hit stop.
Oh, right. I was recording.